Uh, Perfect. So, welcome back on the show, Bradley Gravett. Thank you for joining me.
No worries at all.
It'll be good today to have a look back on your 2021 season in the mini challenge in the JCWs. But first of all, how are you?
I was going to say, cut to that show reel that you've done for me. Or not, of course. I'm very well, thank you. I'm very, very good. We're filming this mid-December at the moment. What is it, 12th of December? So, there's a lot going on at the moment. So my head's all over the place. But other than that, I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, very good. It's like you, very busy with the lead up to Christmas. But yeah, looking forward to having a little look back on your season. I remember speaking on an interview. You just done the first weekend at Snetterton, which was very warm. How were you feeling going into that first weekend?
Yeah, so for those of you who didn't see that interview, I raced in the Mini Challenge JCW series in 2021. Prior to that, I raced in the Cooper class, so the Mini Challenge Cooper class, and I went over this before, but I will again. For those of you that don't know, the Mini Challenge is split into two championships. You've got the slower and the quicker. So I did the slower, if you like, the Cooper class in 2020 in COVID, which was a tough season for us, and I did the JCWs this year in 2021. So the season's obviously now over. Thankfully, COVID didn't really have that much of an impact on the entire year, which was great. I think there was a small delay to the start of the season. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was there a delay?
Yeah, there was. Yeah, it was a little bit delayed.
When was Snetterton? I mean, I should just know off the top of my head. When was it?
Snetterton was June, I believe, because it was meant to be.
Yeah, because it would normally start in April, wouldn't it? And I think it's started in June. So we had 2 months later, which actually, from a driver's perspective and a commercial view, it gave me a little bit more time to go out there and try and find the budget to do it, which actually, albeit the horrific stats and numbers and figures that we had with coronavirus this year and the year before, it helps us a little bit more time because it's quite quick. You're on the timescale from finishing one season to another. There isn't a massive amount of time. So actually, from a driver's perspective and a team perspective, and and all the people around me, we're actually looking for sponsors, midway through, if not sooner, from the previous season to carry across to the following year. So just to be on the grid at Snetterton, the answer to your question, just to be on the grid at Snetterton was a massive privilege. I mean, to be out in a race car this year, to be out in a race car full stop is a massive privilege. Yeah. So we've all worked incredibly hard to get there, and it was a bit like, wow, I'm actually here. So Snetterton was an odd one for me because I raced in 2020 in the Coopers, as I said, and there hadn't been a great deal. In fact, there hadn't been any spectators all year. So to drive out Saturday morning down onto the main straight, Snetterton, round to the right, round the hairpin, and to see all the people on the infield was absolutely incredible. Do you know, it was actually a complete distraction. I mean, I was like, yeah, there's a lot of people here. And then I got to the end of the main straight, round to the left, round to the right, and then it was just people. I was just like, wow.
Yeah,
wow.
absolutely.
Over the curb, into the grass, all that going on. So, yeah, it was great. Really great. Obviously, we had the weather as well. It was like 35 degrees, I think it was that weekend. Yeah. Man, it was like properly roasting in the car. Like, it's hot in the car in the winter, but like when you're in the car in the summer and it's hot, it's like if it's 20 degrees hotter, 20 degrees hotter in the car. So, yeah, it was full on. So, yeah, my headspace then was very much, wow, I'm like shocked to be here. And actually clear. My head was completely clear. So I had no preconceived ideas of the car, the championship, the other drivers. So I was just like, let's go. Let's just go. Simple as that. So, yeah, it was great. Really good. It's a very long-winded answer to that. Very short.
No, it's good. I like it. It was a good weekend, to be fair. It was an interesting one because, as you know, Snetterton's my local circuit, a few miles from it, and obviously that was the first British touring car weekend where fans were back, which was perfect for me. Because obviously, last year was the first year in a very long time I hadn't gone to a race, so it was brilliant to be back. How you were mentioned about how hot the cars are, or how, especially were that weekend. How does that affect your driving or your focus in any way?
So it's obviously going to be debilitating for any driver, and I think over the course of the weekend you notice that debilitation more so. It's quite stressful. I mean, I'm still quite early into motorsport. I mean, I've done lots over the years, but so at that point, I was I'm excited to get in a race car whenever, but I was particularly excited, and when you think when you're just a small child and Christmas Eve, that feeling when you can't sleep at night. I had that, and you have that every day on a race weekend, or I did at that time anyway. So I didn't have a great deal of sleep. So come Sunday, I was pretty fatigued. So hydration is crucial, but. The answer to your question is that when you're so hot, I mean, you're wearing, if you like, thermal base layers, fireproof thermal base layers, Nomex thermals. They're not actually thermal, but they pretty much act as a thermal to your socks. long johns, long sleeve top, balaclava. Then over that, you've then got your race suit. Yeah, I mean, it's hot. It's like sitting in an oven with a ski suit on. It's full on. So you've got sweat pouring down into your eyes and your helmet's soaking wet. And I mean, I don't know. That's me. So, I mean, some people get out of the car and look like they haven't done anything. But I get out of the car and look like I'm in the shower. It's incredible. So I like to towel my hair and stuff like that. But yeah, over a weekend, it gets debilitating. So you've got to make sure you have, you know, the right food, but not too much. Salts is crucial. So certain salts, like any athlete, you need to do the right thing, eat the right thing, keep hydrated. It's really, really important, because actually you need to make sure that this is working. You know, if you're dehydrated or you don't have the energy, you're not thinking properly, you're missing apexes, you're losing lap times, it's frustrating. You need to be able to control that. And that's really, really important. It's all part of the whole thing. I do a lot of time in the gym. So I train 5 days a week. I have done for years, 15 years probably. How am I, 28? Maybe slightly less, maybe 13, 14 years. I do a lot of cardio stuff. So I'm used to sweating. I'm used to that, you know, that high heart rate for a long period of time. I'm very strict with it. I think it's very important. I learned that from my father. He was always very, you know, again, with fitness, a lot of it is in your head. So if you can push to those boundaries, I think a lot of that applies to motorsports and any sport, because it allows you to sort of help control what's going on around you, and, you know, help make the right decisions when you're stressed and you've got a lot of debilitation happening to obviously your heart and your cardiovascular system. So it's important to stay incredibly fit. But actually, it's hot, basically, very hot.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, obviously, the weekend after that, the weather was slightly cooler at Brands Hatch in Kent on the shorter Indy circuit.
Was it a couple of weeks after? Was it 3 weeks?
I think it's about 2 weeks after. It wasn't a long break, because I always remember, because obviously the first round for the touring cars was Thruxton. And then there's a very long wait between those two rounds. I know you weren't obviously at Thruxton competing. But yeah, but Brands Hatch.
I believe the reason for that delay was I think Toka had to reschedule the calendar several times that year. And I think that first round at Thruxton, well, I know for a fact that first round at Thruxton remained under COVID restrictions. Yeah. So it was obviously classed as an elite sport. So it was allowed to happen, but no spectators. What was there spectators? Maybe
not for first
I remember
Thruxton,
that. It was completely closed because it was 2 Thruxton. I actually went to the second one. And the reason that was still under COVID, they moved it so it was out of COVID restrictions. That first round couldn't be moved for whatever reason. I think Thruxton or the calendar or whatever it was in the future couldn't change. So that's what happened there. So that's why there was that kind of I think it was 6-8 week gap between the first round and the second round of Snetterton, I believe. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, yeah, I think there was obviously lots of juggling going on, and actually, I remember because the calendar got sort of changed completely, and I remember Snetterton getting moved forward by quite a long time actually, and I was actually quite upset because it looked as if that fans weren't going to be allowed in, because it would have still been in the sort of the weird elite sport phase, but luckily they did move it back a couple of weeks, so we did make it, which was a relief really. But yeah, it was Brands Hatch next. The racing on the Indy circuit must have been fantastic in the JCWs.
Yeah, I mean, the Indy circuit is probably one of my most well-known circuits, albeit I didn't actually have the best of weekends at Brands Hatch that weekend, for a number of different reasons. But the Indy circuit, funny, this picture behind me here, this was an illustration done of when I came out of the car. This is me on the left with the green stripe and Dad on the right. I don't know if you can see that, but that's me. That's Dad. And basically what it was is the first race I ever did was with Gravett Motorsport in an Enduro K, and I've spoken about this many times before. And I had a great race that weekend, and I've done a lot of testing at Brands Hatch. I've done a lot of laps around there, so I've got great feelings at Brands Hatch, Indy circuit. At that time, I hadn't done the GP layout, and it was quite a different dynamic. I think because Snetterton, we ended up with brand new tyres. We had brand new tyres. We had X number of sets of brand new because it's the first round of the year. But of course, when you go to Brands Hatch, you've used a lot of those tyres. Suddenly you're then working with used tyres. And what a lot of people don't know where these cars are, and I didn't at the time, is that the moment you put a used tyre on the car, it completely changes the entire dynamic of how the car works, and therefore the setup needs to change. I think at that stage as a driver, with my lack of experience with that car, I didn't realise how much of a change that would be. So in Friday testing, we're using older tyres, and I was like, the car's not turning, I've got understeer, I can't get the car to do what I want it to do. And it was incredibly frustrating because I went from Snetterton, a few weeks before being running easily in the top 10 to being at Brands Hatch where I was nowhere near. It took a while for me to get my head around the fact that the old tyres were the reason why most of this was happening. I mean, we could have made some setup changes to help that, which we did as the weekend went on. But I think as a team, we were all learning what the tyre does as it degrades. And I think basically, long story short, is that the Goodyear tyres that we're running on last year in 2021, as they degrade, the sidewalls lose their strength, which basically means that as that tyre is loading up, the sidewall's flexing a lot. And that creates a really unusual sensation through the car that you wouldn't necessarily get in other series. You wouldn't necessarily get that in a touring car, or you might not get it in other classes where the tyre is stronger. Actually, for next year, I believe they're readjusting the tyre to try and help that problem. But because Brands Hatch Indy is so up and down, and there's so much movement in the car, vertically and up and down, obviously. And it was quite a different dynamic to Snetterton. Snetterton's very flat, and there's a high speed, and there's a lot of commitment there, so it's quite an easy setup. But moving to Brands, I struggled with the car there. I struggled to get my head around what I needed to do with it. As the weekend went on, I think it gradually got slightly better. But we had some issues. I think we broke a drive shaft off the line in race 2. That's another issue. These cars, they've got a very weak drivetrain, so. The second race ended before the first corner in the little cutout in the pit. So it wasn't a great weekend for me, to be honest with you, Brands Hatch. But it was definitely a massive learning curve, and we learned a lot from the car and also from myself as well. So all good.
Yeah. Well, after Brands Hatch is a very iconic circuit, and so was the track you went to after that, being Alton Park. Now, Alton Park was a strange weekend for you guys, especially in the minis with sort of a real lack of racing, especially on the Sunday, thanks to some quite big incidents. So, in a way, I suppose you were quite glad once that weekend had been over, you'd finished.
So it was Alton Park that we actually realistically identified the issue with. Well, I did as a driver. I accepted the issue with the tyre. Yeah. Again, I went out on Friday on old tyres, and it was like just undrivable. Going down the right into Cascades, there isn't even really a corner. The car's trying to go into full oversteer and things like that. Okay, maybe there's some setup issues, but that's when I was like, well, excuse me, there's not. You're on my laptop, and my telephone calls come through to my laptop. So maybe
I see.
So that was actually the old man ringing me, asking me what I'm doing, but I'm not going to take that phone call, obviously. Going back to that, it was actually at Alton Park where I realised the tyre issue. So I accepted the fact that the tyres did what they did. And again, Alton Park I know very well. So I worked with what I had in testing and in qualifying. We actually ended up qualifying pretty well. I think we were around 15th, 16th, which doesn't sound great, but actually it was. Obviously there was a huge lack of racing, not just for the minis, but also for a lot of series throughout that weekend. I don't quite know what happened that weekend. I think there was a lot of issues in the Ginettas. I think there was throughout the weekend. In fact, I know one of the junior races had to be rerun at another circuit.
Yeah,
the next time out because they actually ran out.
I remember that.
I think there's a church or there's something quite near to Alton Park, so there's actually quite a lot of restrictions as to what you can do. And of course, Alton Park, one of the circuits being an old English village. I can't remember the name of the village now. It's left me, but you can't start any engines after 12 o'clock. Obviously, up to locals. I sort of get it, but don't at the same time. But that's how they get their license. So we ran out of time. So we raced very well at Alton Park, but I think if I remember off the top of my head, I think one of the races ended under safety car. Was it race? We only had 2 races that weekend. Race 1. Yeah. Race 1 happened, but something happened and it didn't end all the way. And then race 2, there was 2 cars that barrel rolled quite seriously. Right in front of me. One almost landing on me, which was quite a scary experience. Thankfully, both drivers were absolutely fine, which just goes to credit the strength of these cars. I mean, the roll cage is in and they're absolutely cocooned around the driver, so it's incredibly safe. Both walked away fine. Both needed brand new cars, which isn't ideal. But there wasn't a great deal of racing at Alton Park. But from the racing that we had, we raced well. We were pretty decent on times, confident with the car. Funny enough, I actually had my biggest, what I call life-threatening oversteer moment I've ever had at Alton Park. Yeah. I ran wide coming out of Knickerbrook right-hander. So you go down up the hill, down the straight, and then into the right, into the left, and then round the right. And I ran wide. Yeah. And I put my left tyres just over the other side of the curb onto the grass. Anyway, at that point, there was a couple of cars behind me that had to run up the hill up into, it's called Druids, I think, isn't it? Up the top. Yeah. Of the park. And there's a video on my Instagram if you haven't seen it. And I turned the car in, but I obviously had dust or dirt or grass on both left tyres. And oh my God, it was like 100 miles an hour full sideways. Oh my God. Yeah. So I must share that on board because it is a good one. So Alton Park was a good weekend. Love the circuit. It's a stunning circuit. In fact, they've really credit to MSP on that one. They've really done a great job with all of it. I mean, the whole thing. The trees are they're all groomed properly. The bushes are cut lovely. The grass is pristine. You know, it's lovely. It's a lovely experience. Holden Park, one of my favourite circuits.
Yeah, absolutely, and very picturesque. And so was the next circuit being Knock Hill. How was for JCW around Knock Hill? Because
Knock Hill. Yeah, I know why it's called Knock Hill.
Yeah.
Lots of knocking in hills.
Yeah.
That was a real eye opener. That was. I don't get intimidated by circuits. I don't get intimidated by that thing. I can deal with it. I don't mind it. But all year, people saying Knock Hill.
Yeah.
Knock Hill. So I'm thinking maybe I need to be a little bit cautious of Knock Hill.
Knock Hill, yeah.
Yeah, it was an interesting weekend, I must say. So it's up in Scotland, so it's an aeroplane jobby. It's a long way to go for racing, but we do what we do for it. And so we went up on the Monday prior to the race weekend. So that week is closed off to the public, track days, whatever. Yeah. And the Minis and the Ginettas were there Monday. So went there Monday, chucked it down with rain. So we had about half the pack there. It was absolutely soaking wet, and it was the only time last year that I actually drove the JCW in the wet. And I was quick. I think I was about fourth quickest out of everyone that was there. And actually, I was thinking, do you know what? To be fourth quickest round fourth or fifth, I can't remember what it was. It was right that side. Yeah. It was the right side of the timing sheet. And I was like, wow, yeah, this is impressive, because it was absolutely soaking wet. I mean, you couldn't see anything throughout the car. You know, it was like so wet, they were having to red flag sessions because it was like someone's going to crash. And it was lovely. I mean, it was a really good, I mean, the Goodyear wet tyres on that car are absolutely unbelievable. They've got so much grip. Well, they did at Knock Hill anyway. Whether they resurfaced the tarmac or the curbs or whatever, but the grip was unbelievable. So massive commitment. So I'm thinking, great. Flew up Monday morning, flew back Monday night. No, flew up Sunday night, flew back Monday night. Happy days. So I got home, prepared myself for the weekend, flew back up Friday, dry. Yeah. Oh, right. Okay, fine. So it's like I'd never driven. Totally different dynamic. And it is absolutely mental. Mental. It's as crazy as you see it on telly. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, that first corner. So you go up the hill under the bridge. I have no idea what any of the corners are called. I still don't know what most of the corners are called on pretty much any of the circuits. Yeah. Go up the hill, go out onto the pit exit, because that's just what you do, and then turn it in. You can't see anything. Like, it's totally blind. Like, you can't see anything. You know, there's a huge curb there on the inside. You fly that curb, you get the car like a foot off the ground. It's incredible. And you come down the hill, it lands. And then as it lands, if you're not straight, or if you're slightly off centre, the thing will snatch. And then you'll end up fighting it down the hill, and then back through the left, and then turn it into the right, and then you sort of like down the hill, and then you go up into the little chicane. Oh, it's incredible. And again, it's completely blind. So as you go up that hill, you can't see the curbs. You don't see those curbs all weekend. You can see the tyres on the left, but then the right hand of the bit that you see the cars all up in the air, you can't see it. So you sort of turn it, and you have no reference points. There's no trees. There's no marshal post. There's absolutely nothing. So yeah, it was a huge jump to go from two circuits that I knew pretty well, three circuits that I knew pretty well to Knock Hill. So yeah, we didn't qualify particularly well. We had issues with the car. I think we made the wrong choice in qualifying that weekend. It made the wrong choice on the suspension settings, which around a circuit with that many undulations isn't really ideal. You need the car to be as compliant as possible. It just wasn't. So I didn't qualify particularly well. I think I was 18th or something like that. I only really realistically managed to get one lap in, proper lap, where I wasn't sort of wheel onto the grass or onto the gravel or whatever it was. And we had I think we had a DNF that weekend, which was quite unfortunate. One of those things, it happens in motorsport. So yeah, Knock Hill is one that I need to spend some more time on the sim on. I think we're going to do some testing up there for next year as well. That's the plan. I'm actually really looking forward to going back. It won't beat me. I will beat it for sure. Definitely. Yeah. I think Knock Hill's fantastic. And I know you're only young, but when you I know you're into karting as well, but it's absolutely worth going up there and doing all their track days. I know they do a lot of track days, and actually experiencing it, because it's incredible. Yeah, it is incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a funny story actually, because I over the summer I interviewed Duncan, who's the lead commentator for Knockhill, and he's convinced me to visit Knockhill next season, because we were having a bit of a laugh. He was like, "Oh, I've been to Snetterton and I have not been that way." So yeah, he's convinced me. So we're having a Scottish holiday over the summer next year. So we're going to visit Knockhill for the touring cars. So yeah, really looking forward to watching the racing at circuit there, whether it be at turn 1 or the final hairpin or whatever, because there's always some good racing there.
It always is, yeah. Just make sure you take your jacket and umbrella and your other umbrella, because your first one will break.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a story at Knockhill, and there's I can't remember. Do excuse me again. I'm coming back. There's a story of Knockhill, and it's how does it go? I think it's, if you can see the hills, it's just about to rain. If you can't see the hills, it's raining. That's the end of it. Although I was desperate for rain that weekend, didn't get a single drop. So yeah,
it's off and away, mate. Off and away. So yeah, I presume by that point you were sort of starting to get more confident with the car, because it is a big step up from what I've been told from the Cooper.
Oh, it's not even the same thing. I mean, it's just the only similarity between the two cars is the badge on the front, and the fact it's called Mini Challenge. Other than that, I mean, the Cooper, you just drive the life out of it, and the more you're prepared to risk, quicker you go. Generally, it's a momentum car, is the Cooper, as is the JCW, and as is any race car. But you pick the throttle up too much on the JCW, you'll just spin the front sub. You won't crash necessarily, but you'll just lose your time. And that can be half a second, it could be 2/10, it could be whatever. So it's you've got to get it right. You've got to get every lap right, and it is, it's a tricky car. I mean, I've not driven a touring car. I will drive one at some point, but I've been told by many touring car drivers that they are like a touring car, and a lot of them say they're harder to drive than a touring car. The diffs in them are very aggressive. They're probably too strong for the car, realistically. Not the car, they're probably too strong for the tyre. I've been told when you compare a front-wheel drive diff in a touring car to a JCW, the touring car will pull the car around nicely. Whereas in the JCW, you don't get that. You just get massive understeer. Or you've got to really work with the car. You got to really know the car. It is going to take some time to get quick, but it's a tricky car. I think next year we want to try and we want to try and test some quite drastic things on the car, and just to see what it does. Just have a play around with it. I think that's really, really important. Just change this. What does it do? Change that. Well, we'd never do that, but what does it do? Should we be doing that? Should we try this thing?
Yeah, it seems really interesting, to be fair, because I've been very fortunate to talk to lots of the mini challenge drivers, and they've all said how sort of strange cars they are to drive and how difficult they are to drive. So I suppose it's quite difficult for me to sort of imagine on and how they handle.
Exactly. I mean, the only way I can describe it is that when you turn it in, it doesn't just turn nice. It's never nice. No. I mean, it is nice. You get used to it. It's nice. It's lovely. When you get it right, it's nice. But when you turn it in, the back goes around like that. So you sort of turn it, and you and then you don't turn anymore, but the back turns a bit. But in any normal race car, you'd be like, oh, whoa, no, I don't like that. Now, whether that's just a front-wheel drive car or not, I don't know. But that takes a bit of getting used to, because actually you need a bit of movement in the back of the car, because you need it to help the front. Front-wheel drive, it's good. You take a little bit of life at the rears, not the fronts, help the fronts a bit, but you've got to get used to that sensation. And it's a weird thing. I mean, if you're a passenger, because of all I know you do your karting and stuff, and you came out as a passenger, you'd be like, you're thinking, why is he not correcting it?
Yeah.
But what's so weird about these cars and I go back to the tyre, so you'll get the car into that position, you turn it in, it's nice. The back comes around, it's nice. Suddenly the sidewall flexes, and then you're into massive oversteer. So that's the problem you get with these cars, and that's what you need to, I think, get used to. I think most of the drivers, if not all of the drivers, are used to that, but it's understanding that, knowing that that's okay, and pushing through that. And I think that's why it takes a little bit of time to get quick in these cars. I think there are things that you can do with the setup to, help that. And if it does happen, you can change things. But it's, you're always playing one off another. So you change that. It feels nicer, but it's slower. So you make it feel less nicer, but it's quicker. So it's about getting that balancing act and getting used to that as a driver. Tricky car.
Yeah.
I will master it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I look forward to hopefully seeing you on the grid for next season. I won't keep you for too much longer, because I know you're obviously super busy at the minute, and I'm sure you've got all sorts of things to catch up on, like the F1.
By the way, if you're watching this at a later date, which you will be, because I know this isn't going out live, today is the 12th of December. Sorry to date drop. And it's the final of the Formula One today. I don't know who won. He's not going to tell me. I've not been on social media all day. So don't even think about it.
Honestly, I wouldn't dare. Croft was next, I believe. Croft's a funny circuit, lots of high speed parts to it. Is it a circuit you enjoy?
I like Croft, yeah. Croft was great this year. So my teammate Max Coates, as you know, he lives 10 minutes from Croft. Croft is a good weekend for Team Graves, team coach, Team Graves, and because of that, myself. So Max has got a great support bubble. So going into Croft, I was like, can't wait for Croft. And actually had a great weekend at Croft. I matched my best ever finishing position all year in the car. I had a great race. I kept out of trouble. I kept clean. Great weekend. Croft's a very flat circuit. It's next airfield, which of course lots of them are. So it's very much lots of racetracks have lots of cambers in the road, and you have to learn those cambers, and you can set the car in and it feels nice. Croft is very much like, you're very much hanging on to the car. You're hanging on to the tyre. It's flat. There's nothing really to hold it in. So you're always sort of fighting with that. But that's okay because it's flat.
Yeah.
A bit like Snetterton in some ways.
Yeah.
So Croft is an odd one because you've got very, very high speed, high commitment, very, very technical and very slow speed. You've got quite a lot of mix there. It's a tricky circuit. I'm like Croft. I've always been good at Croft. I've always been quite quick at Croft. And it was a good weekend. I think the weather was relatively nice all weekend. Unfortunately, I think our televised race ended with quite a lot of time behind the safety car. There was a bit of an incident in the first part of the race. I think there was in the car. That was it. If I remember rightly, there was an issue with the tyre bells for the first complex, wasn't there? The marshal. So these tyre bells, there were 4 tyres bolted together, 4 stacks of like 8 tyres or whatever it is bolted together with this really thick stuff around it. I mean, we went up to it, and you kick it with your foot, and it doesn't even move. You move. It doesn't move. And it was ripping wings off cars, and it was putting cars on their roofs. Yeah. And it was getting closer and closer and closer to the apex. And you just didn't have any room. So I think that was the biggest issue of Croft that weekend. So that definitely needs to be looked into by BARC. I think that's absolutely vital because, in my opinion, it's dangerous. Yeah. And the issue is to stop track limits. Now, you've got a curb there, so you go down the first corner, you turn right, and then you've got that long sweeping right into that tight left-hander down the back straight. That's flat. It's flat in pretty much anything. But with the tyre bells there, it's so marginal. It's so close. But I think the issues that the organisers had, and I think it's Croft more than Toka, is that, or the BRC, or whoever it is, I'm not name dropping now, I don't actually know who it is. The issue with cutting the corner, but if they just move those tyre bells back, cars weren't getting damaged, people weren't getting hurt, but equally everyone had an advantage. So in my opinion, I think next year those tyres should be moved out a foot, half a foot, just away from the apex, something just to help that. So I think that was the biggest talking point of Croft that weekend. But for us and Team Graves, I think Max had a pretty decent result that weekend. He was right up the front, which is great. He knows Croft like back of his hand. He helped me all weekend, and it was great. It was a really, really good weekend. In fact, we stayed with the Coates family for an extra day. That's how much we enjoyed being up there. So it was good old weekend, that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you obviously mentioned Max, your teammate. He's obviously a brilliant guy. I've interviewed him. He's had lots of success over the years. How well have you two, you worked together this season?
Oh yeah, massively. Max has been great. We get on really well. We like talk all the time. We're like really good friends now off the back of the racing. It's absolutely brilliant. So it's really good. It's nice to have that dynamic in the team. Max helps me, and where I can, I help him. And I think that's really important for Graves and for a package. We're pushing towards touring cars. Max is even public. He's planning on going touring cars the year after next. It's really important that we push forward as a team. That's crucial. So I think it's going to get more and more competitive as the years go on, and more drivers join the team. But if we can move all 2, 3, 4, whatever it is, drivers that the team are planning on running in the future, whatever, if we can move everybody forward, that's just great. That's good for the team. And that's what it's all about. As much as it's for the drivers, a lot of people just see the drivers. There's a huge operation going on behind the scenes with the team and all the mechanics and when somebody gets a result in the team, it's not just the driver, it's the whole package, the whole team, all the mechanics, all the engineers. They all, without them we wouldn't be racing. Simple as that. So it's a bonus for everybody. So it's really, really good to help each other and try and push forward. So really, really, really important.
Yeah, exactly. Well, obviously the penultimate weekend was Donington Park, another circuit that I'm hoping to get to next season because it's one of my favourites that I've watched on TV and driven on the sim. But yeah, how did you find that? Because I spoke to Lydia Walmsley and did a season review with her fairly recently, talking about her first season in the JCWs, and she was saying how exciting Donington was, especially on some of the really fast corners. And we said how the circuit is really flowing and provides some great racing as well.
Oh, it does. Yeah, I've got a very fond memory of Lydia having a full send into the old hairpin. I'm thinking, is that going to go? We both gave each other the room that we both required, but I thought, fair play to her. That was a pretty risky move. But I think we were coming down the thing, and then I left a bit of a room, and she just went straight up like that. I was like, oh no. Yeah, good. I love Donington. Donington is my favourite circuit. I raced there in the Cooper last year. I had my best result all year there.
Yeah,
it's very flowy. It's very high commitment. There's lots of visuals. You can see a lot. You've got lots of space. It's it's a very safe circuit.
Yeah.
So you can have lots of commitment there. It went well for us. It was a sunny, dry weekend, I think. Again, it's adapting from the Cooper to the JCW. You kind of have to forget what the Cooper is and sort of start understanding what the JCW is. So, the Craners are very marginal. The old hairpin is very marginal, very marginal. I think it's McLean's, and then is it Coppice? Is it up the hill? You've got McLean's and Coppice, and then down the back straight, and then into the chicane. That chicane is very marginal. You're all over the curbs, huge floppies on the inside, and it's a cool circuit, Donington. It's just cool. It's just cool, the whole thing. I mean, the Craners is, you have to have a word with yourself coming down the hill. So you come down the first corner into Redgate, banging up. I mean, to six, whatever you're doing, I don't even know, 130, 40. I don't know how fast these cars go. It's terrible. You bang it down a gear or two into Redgate, and then you come out the exit, and then you can see everything. It's dropping away from you, so it's coming down the hill. I mean, you've done it with the sim, so you know.
Yeah.
You get the car over to the right, and at this point, you're still probably doing 100 miles an hour. So even getting the car over to the right becomes marginal because it's moving around, and you've got various bits of marbles going on over the circuit. So you're trying to get the car over to the right, and then you're thinking Craners, and thinking, yes, this is the lap. This is the lap that I get it flat. So you're like, yes, it's flat. Yes, it's flat. You're like, great, got it flat. Mega. Great, got it flat. Cool. Anyway, you finish your qualifying, testing race, whatever, and you're like, right, that lap, I had it flat. You look at your daisy and half a lift. You're like, oh, no. What? It's like your brain and your foot's not connected, It's bizarre.
Yeah.
No, so it's a wonderful circuit, is Donington. I don't remember a lot from Dad's racing career, but for some reason, I remember a lot about Donington. So I remember weird memories of corner names. So I've got like Redgates, I remember. It's not Clearways, that's Brands Hatch, isn't it? McLean's, I remember that. I remember Craner Curves, all those names, and they're the ones that are the fondest in my mind from being a kid. So obviously Donington, for some reason when I was younger, just stuck in my memory. So great circuit. Highly recommend it as a driver. Highly recommend doing it. Yeah, it's just great. As soon as you get out in a race car yourself, Donington.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll be the first place. Another reason, as you explained, why we need to visit in the next couple of years, hopefully. But season finale, Brands Hatch GP, another brilliant circuit. It was good to see you there. Good to finally meet you in person and not on a computer screen.
We first actually met, wasn't
it? Good circuit to finish off the season, I would have said.
Yeah, it's a great circuit. So it's an odd one, Brands GP. First time I've driven it. Obviously done tons and tons of laps on the simulator, but don't really get the same feeling, obviously, on the sim. I'm getting better on the sim. Don't get me wrong. It's taken a lot of time. As the season's gone on, I do use a sim, and as the season's gone on, I'm starting to get that lateral feeling through my body, even though it doesn't happen. I can mentally visualize that and feel that. So that helps. And I was there at Donington. At Brands Hatch, at the GP when we were there. I was at that point on the sim, so I was able to get a lot out of the sim. What's odd about the GP layout is that it changes two corners. Surtees, I believe it's called, the left hander onto the main GP loop, and then coming back down Clearways or McLaren's, I don't quite know which one it is. It changes it completely because you enter both corners quicker. And equally, you have that knock-on effect of Paddock Hill Bend. Now, Paddock Hill Bend doesn't really change. It's the same. Your braking point might change slightly because you're going slightly quicker, but that doesn't really change. So my biggest thing in my head is I don't mind the out-back section. That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
It was understanding and taking that different line into Surtees. I mean, it's such a wide lineup because that corner is so tight. It's really it's really tight. I know I don't really do anything on the camera there, but it's so tight. So much lock on and actually, do you know what? Race 2, sector 2, which was Surtees to the end of that straight, I was joint quickest. I had purple sector there that weekend, and I was absolutely ecstatic about it. It was incredible to get that on such an important part of that circuit, to get that time sector nailed and be the quickest driver there, or joint quickest driver there, was absolutely brilliant. Weirdly enough, to like the thousandth of a second, I was joint quickest. Like it never happens, but anyway, whatever. So it was a good weekend. It's very leery. Lots of people, again, like Not Kill, lots of people said Brands GP, the Outback section, got to be careful.
Yeah.
Not really what I want to hear. I just want to have to send the car. So not a lot of runoff there. It's quite bumpy in certain areas. I think it's called, is it Hawthorns, where you fly the car? Yeah, that's a lot like Not Kill, because you sort of go down and then back up, and you can't really see the corner. So you get your turning point, and then that's your turning point all weekend. Once you've got your visuals fixed on wherever that is, that becomes your turning point all weekend. So it's a great circuit. We raced really well. We did, however, unfortunately, have a drive shaft failure on the final race. So I DNF the final race of the year. Which,
I remember seeing that. Yeah,
it's unfortunate. It's the car lifted up off Graham Hill Bend, and the wheel span. The problem is with the slick tyre, you've got a tyre that fat with a drive shaft about that round, and the trouble is when that's spinning at like whatever speed it is, and then you come off a curb and land, it stops. So it goes from like, I'm making these numbers up, 170 mile an hour to like 30, and it snaps a drive shaft. It's very common in these cars. It is what it is. Partially my fault, partially degraded drive shaft is what it is. Final race ended with DNF, but you know what? Wasn't bothered.
Absolutely.
I was incredibly frustrated about it. I was racing really well, actually, that race. It was frustrating. It is what it is. Again, these are things that we need to be looking into next year. Lifing components, potentially lifing drive shafts, crack testing drive shafts, because that is the biggest hindrance of these cars at the moment. I do believe there's going to be an adjustment to the drive shaft and how they're produced, but I don't think it's going to fix the problem. I think that problem's always going to be there. There's a lot of power going through such a small. I mean, you don't see touring cars breaking drive shafts. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah, they fly off curb. You don't see them breaking drive shafts. So something needs to be, sorted with these. And they're not cheap things to replace either. They're expensive components. It's not something you really want to be seeing happening, because it destroys races and, of course, championships.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's been really cool to look back on your season, sort of just looking back briefly. It must have been, really cool being on the Toka package full time. Another thing I saw on social media, that on the British Touring Car Chat, you were voted one of the most popular drivers. It must be, little things like that, just to look back on about how cool this first year in the JCWs has been. I mean, absolutely. You get so worked up with running around, looking after partners, finding new partners. You get all this stuff going on. It's a full-time job. There's a team of people working behind the scenes. I'm certainly on it full time, trying to balance life along with that, and these small wins. Like the thing with the British Touring Car Chat. I think I was voted third, so it's like a podium. Third most popular, third most liked. I don't know, whatever it was, driver, which was great to be involved with. Max won it, I think. So, by a considerable margin, should I say? Although he did vote for me. What a gent! Yeah, absolutely. I saw that. Yeah.
But those small wins are really important. I think at the early stages of any career, any driver, I think those you got to focus in on the wins that you get. We are planning on coming back next year. My headspace is going to change. This is last year was a learning year for me. Next year isn't next year. I will be going quickly, very quickly, hopefully. So we're going to try and get a pretty comprehensive winter testing program in place, which will probably be hindered by COVID. Because we can't go abroad or anything like that. So it'll have to be done in the UK, but it's the same for everybody. I know what the car is going to do. I know my expectations of the car. I can drive the car in my head as well, which I think, it sounds silly, but with certain circuits, I know where the bumps are under the braking zone. I don't even have to see the footage. I know where they are. There's a bump there. I know I need to be there. I need to be there. And when it bumps, I know what that feeling feels like. So I can actually, if you like, test in my head. That's not possible, obviously, but I've got a better idea of what I need to be doing with the car for next year, and therefore a lot more confidence in the car and what it's going to do. And I know exactly how I think the car needs to be set up for me. So I think it's nice to have a break. I think that's important. The off season, I think it's really important, just to clear everything down, clear the headspace, sort everything out, and next year go out there and absolutely send it as quick as we can.
Yeah, Yeah, absolutely, and that's a good way of looking at it. But obviously you mentioned for British Touring Car Chat, the sort of the voting thing. I couldn't put a vote because I couldn't choose, because I've been lucky enough to speak to quite a lot of your mini drivers. But I'd happily say that you've had my favourite livery this year. I remember
Thank you
obviously
very much. Yeah, we've
when we did the interview earlier in the year, I know we had a pretty in-depth chat about the mini challenge and all the liveries, but yeah, that was really cool. And yeah, you could definitely spot you on the circuit. And I'm always a fan of red, white, and blue. My kart helmet's always red, white, and blue, so that was obviously quite cool. And yeah, it just looked brilliant. So
yeah, it's a cool. That was a Saturday afternoon on Adobe Illustrator. That was so.
yeah,
It was one
nice.
that I designed myself, and it was when I design. I say when I design, like I've designed liveries. What I wanted to make sure was that the car stood out on telly. That was really, really important, and it did. There could be a pack of 30 cars, and you could see my car a mile off. If it wasn't in focus, you knew that was my car, and that's important. And that's always been a very Gravett thing to do. You take the crash helmet style, for example, you can see that in the car from outside the car. It's really important. And yeah, it's always been the same thing. So we'll continue that, whether we have that livery next year or we change it or improve it. Who knows? We'll see what happens with that. But yeah, whatever. Hopefully, I'll produce something that you can see clear as day. Although I do very much like that livery as well myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Like. Yeah, definitely. I'm always a fan of red, white, and blue, as I say, and I think that's always such an important thing, in my opinion, because I've always been into sort of art and photography and all of that side as well. So putting those two things together, that's always very cool. But yeah, thank you, as I say, for coming on the show and having a look back on your 2021 season. Yeah, make sure you have a rest as well over the winter. How much do you switch off from racing over the break?
I'll probably work until midnight tonight, probably.
Yeah.
Well, that feels like midnight now, considering how dark it's getting, how early it is. It's crazy. Really, yeah. I don't remember getting this dark this early. I mean, it's only 7 o'clock now. It feels like it's getting dark at about 2 PM. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, yeah. Thank you, as I say, and yeah, enjoy the Formula One. Yeah, you have to let me know what you think.
Yes. Don't tell me anything.
No, we've made it this far. I won't spoil anything. But
good. But well, yeah. I just want to say thank you for having me again. It's been really good to come on the show. So good luck with the rest of it as well. It's really good fun.
Absolutely. Well, no, thank you very much. And yeah, for anyone watching at home, this is the final interview of the year. So yeah, thank you to anyone that's been watching. And yeah, I think this has been a pretty good interview to round out the year, really. So yeah, thank you.